All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Just testing the tech in the background here. How are we all? Good morning. And we are going live onto my business page. Haven't done this in a long time. And welcome to anybody who might be watching us. If you do come on and watch us, give us a like and a love and let us know you're here because we can't see your names otherwise. But today I'm going to be talking to Tammy. Tammy's one of my amazing clients who I've been working with for about 7 months now. And when she came to me, she was incredibly stressed out, strung out, lacking sleep, emotionally eating to soothe emotions and calm the nervous system. She had become the sole, I guess, and full-time carer of her mother with dementia, and it was an incredibly tough gig that was having a real impact on her health, her mental health as well, and all this was going on while she was also still working full-time in a very busy and stressful professional career. So I'll hand it over to her in a moment to talk through her story, but I just want you to listen to her story in a way that sort of lets you know that even if you are experiencing very difficult times in your life, that you can still make progress towards your health, make progress towards your weight loss goals. Those are really times in your life when you probably really need the support the most, because I hear a lot of people saying, it's not the right time now. I've got too much going on. There's someone else that needs my care and my attention, and I can't put all the focus on me at the moment. And I get that, but what can happen, and this is what happened to Tammy, is that what she was experiencing was that without having the support, she herself wasn't able to be fully present in the full support that her mother needed. So by getting herself the support, she was then able to be in a better position to be able to support her mother. So that's sort of why I wanted to bring you her story today. And but I'm going to throw it over to her now, just to tell you in her words, introduce her, and tell you in her words about his story. So take it away, Tammy. Tell us a bit about you and tell us about those struggles before we started working together.
Yeah, so before we started working together, like as you said, I became, and I had already been doing it for about 1.5 years, became sole caregiver for my mother who has Parkinson's and dementia, and working full time from home in very stressful corporate job. So, for a while I was good. I was, eating healthy. I was eating plant-based. I was, getting exercise in. And then at some point, everything just I started getting caregiver burnout, basically. And the wheels started to come off. So I started doing emotional eating. Like I'd get her into bed in the evening and open the pantry or open the fridge. And I'd never done that before. I'd never been an emotional eater before in my life, before that happened. And I started, and of course I wasn't always making the healthiest of choices. And I started really experiencing extreme fatigue again. I had bloating, digestive issues, was nauseous all the time, my skin hurt, headaches, joint pain. I was hot all the time. And I was like constantly getting sick.
Yeah.
She was healthy, other than her other things. She was completely healthy from that respect, but I was getting sick constantly. And actually one thing we never really talked about was I was struggling with tinnitus too.
Yes. That's right.
That was pretty bad. So I was, rolling along and, thinking I'm keeping it together. And then I went out to dinner with some work friends and we, took a group shot, and that's that before picture. Yeah. And my friend posted it on Facebook and I about fell out of my chair. I was like, really? Like, okay, something needs to happen now. So I had seen you popping up on a lot of different pages, whole food plant-based pages that I've been stalking. And, so I checked you out, and that's when I reached out. Because at that point I was like, I know how to, I've done whole food plant-based. I know how to eat healthy. But at that point, I was just so burnt out and so stressed out. I just needed that support and that accountability um, to work with somebody and start getting myself back on track. Because as you mentioned before, I was getting to the point where, I was struggling myself and I was still needing to take care of her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that situation of you got to put your mask on first
Yeah.
before you can help someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I had tons of recipes. I knew what to make. I was just like, beyond, I'm not sure what at that point. I just needed some structure and some support and some help and the accountability,
Yeah.
checking in and, and when we started, that was one of the things I said to you. It was more of that emotional piece that were a few modules in that I needed to get to, that more stress management techniques, the breathing techniques, I started doing my EFT tapping again. I needed that kind of thing. And of course then, with you have all those easy recipes, so that got me started. And we all started doing stuff out of Plant U, and so I added that in, and then finding more things and making stuff up on my own, because I love to cook. And to me, chopping vegetables and prepping food is like meditation. So getting back into my weekly meal prep, because I used to do that for years and years and years, I've gotten out of that habit too.
Yeah.
So it was really, like I said, the support, the accountability, and developing those habits. I was always good with my water, but my sleep was out of control because I was waking up every couple of hours just from stress and from mom waking me up.
Yeah.
And that sleep really impacted me, not having that really good sleep, and that stress management. So, and just tapping into some of the basis for some of those emotional things that I was going through.
Yeah. So I know that you did tapping
Mhm,
alongside what we were doing as well, but
mhm.
was there anything else that you had tried in the past, like maybe before we had started working together, to really try and get yourself back on track?
From like a meditation stress wise, or from the
Yeah,
food
like anything.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I run the gamut on the food thing.
Yeah.
Found out that uh, intermittent fasting doesn't work for me. Um,
Yeah. Well, so talk to me about that. Like, talk to, yeah, why do you think intermittent fasting wasn't working for you?
I just, and it's the same thing that we've talked about before, and still even with the whole food plant based, you see people are like, oh, I did this thing and all the weight just fell off, and it doesn't just always fall off. For some people it does, and for some people it doesn't. It depends on their circumstance, right?
Yeah.
So I had done intermittent fasting. I've done intermittent fasting alongside keto,
Hmm.
and along with everything else, I lost the same 20 pounds, and then I would gain it back on plus some. And like the pandemic did nobody any favors,
Hmm.
except Jayla, who apparently got into better shape. But the rest of us were, suddenly I'm like, there's Fritos in my house. How did that happen? I don't eat junk food like that, and now I'm eating crap.
Hmm.
So I had gone through and lost that weight, and then I gained it back again
Yeah.
when I was getting stressed and emotional eating. I just kept hitting that 20 and going back up, and then some, and then the 20 hitting, I had that ceiling or floor. I'm not sure which it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
but
It's like that. Stealing of weight loss. Yeah. The
yeah,
number wouldn't go any
trampoline.
higher.
It felt like it was a trampoline. So, I had tried all sorts of different things, but in the past, whenever I did raw or whole food plant based, that's when I felt the best.
Yeah.
So that's when I started going back through on Facebook through like the T. Colin Campbell and Forks Over Knives and a bunch of those. And that's where I kept seeing you pop up, commenting on things. I'm like, who is this person? So I started like checking out your site and I'm like, okay. And then I saw that picture and I'm like, okay, I'm reaching out. Um, and I had done meditation. I've, done tapping. I've done all, breathing, different breathing techniques, yoga, but I wasn't sticking to anything or doing anything regularly because I was exhausted and I just didn't feel like, after working all day and running back, I work from home so I could take care of mom. And even when I did finally break down and get some caregivers, which actually was only about a month before we started working together.
Yeah.
I was still running back and forth. And by the end of the day, I was exhausted. I had nothing left at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have, didn't really feel like, oh, let me listen. Oh, this is a great time to meditate. I was just like, do I have enough energy to get up and wash my face and brush my teeth and go to bed? That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of, everything fell to the wayside. And I was just burning out. I mean, and I was like, and when I was getting to that point, I was just, it was like, I was just one giant ball of emotion, I mean, as you know.
Yeah.
It took how many months before I got through a session talking to you without crying? Something would make me, start crying at some point during one of our sessions.
Yeah.
But
But it was a good,
so it's managing that,
Yeah.
Say again?
It's a safe space to let it out. Like,
Yes.
just to be able to, I need to get this out right now. And it's like, yep. Totally.
I let it out. And then you would feel your emotions and then we would talk through it and then we would come up with, more tools. But
I was going to say, what do you remember being one of the first things that really started to shift for you and have an impact on how you felt, either physically or emotionally, mentally? Do you remember when that was, when you started to really shift how you felt?
I don't know exactly when it was, but it was kind of a combination of a few things that kind of all came together all at once. So it was that breathing technique,
Yeah.
because that would help. And then, so I would use that and I would use that in conjunction with the tap and breathe.
Yeah.
Getting myself together so that I could meal prep. So Sunday I would, or whenever I get out to get the groceries and then meal prep.
Yeah.
So then I didn't have to think about that. And I knew that I had all the healthy stuff ready to go for the week. So that was one less thing to think about then at that point. And when you were like, just feel your emotions, just let it out, let it go, and then breathe and then move on. And then when I started doing that with the breathing, and I think that, I kept telling you that it was like my amygdala was like a toddler with ADHD, right? It was like that started calming down.
Yeah.
So then I felt like I wasn't so reactionary to everything. Everything wasn't like getting to me so much. And I started feeling better physically, because I was eating better.
Yeah.
Eating healthier. So that went a long way.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was dragging myself around, it's like when I first started talking to you, I felt like, I just felt like heavy, like everything was heavy, emotionally, physically. I felt like, I was dragging Jabba the Hutt around, right?
Yeah.
And then like things started getting lighter and lighter. And then, so when I started to have a little bit more energy, and my skin stopped hurting, I remember telling you, it's like, oh my God, my skin doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
This is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't feeling nauseous all the time. Then I think things started from that perspective, started to feel better.
Yeah.
And then I had enough energy. And then when I started joining the standing step challenges, then it was just even getting that physical activity back in every day helped.
Yeah.
So those, it probably wasn't, we started working mid-June, probably wasn't until
That was about
middle middle of August
yeah.
that I really started to like feel like I was surfacing.
Yeah, yeah. Because before that, it was like we were just trying to pull you up from drowning.
Yeah,
and
yeah. I was underwater. I had a really long straw that I was breathing through.
yeah,
And
yeah,
at that
yeah,
point, I could get up. I felt like I wasn't drowning anymore.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
You were starting to tread water, and then you were able to start swimming towards the edge, get yourself.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But it was also mentally with the weight loss too. Um, because, like I was saying, with all the other things, everyone's like, oh, weight just falls off. It's like, well, it doesn't. And I know for me, because even with those other things, it didn't. But when we were focusing on, the progress, not perfection, became my mantra. Um, that helped,
yeah,
so it wasn't like, oh, I'm expecting this, every week, a 5-pound weight loss. I was like, just as long as we're kind of going in the right direction,
yeah.
that's good.
So
you
it doesn't
know?
happen that way. Like, and that just goes to show too the impact that well, one, that weight loss is never linear. And I thought, when I
Right.
posted the picture yesterday about your about
My
the diet
EKG.
today, yeah, and the EKG, like literally week
Yeah.
on week, and some of those ups and downs are like 5 pounds, some of them are 10 pounds,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was all over the place. And it just goes to show that, and for most part, you were like your food. Once you got food prepping and stuff,
Hmm.
your food was pretty good. It was the sleep and the stress.
Hmm.
When you
Hmm.
had um, interrupted sleep nights, or when your mother was not in a good way, that would really activate your stress,
Hmm.
and then you weren't able to sleep properly, and that's when we would see that scale go backwards again.
Yeah.
And you said you could feel it in your body too. You said you really
Yeah.
felt inflamed. So
Yeah.
I want to also just highlight to people that weight loss is not just the steady downward trend on the scale. Most of my clients haven't been that
No.
way, but Tammy's is just like over exaggerated. But just wanted to show the impact that things like stress and sleep can have on the body, even when everything else, even when all your other habits are in check. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means that whatever is going on in your life in that moment is impacting your journey, and it's just the next thing to really start working on. So that's why we did a lot of work around stress and
Yeah.
calming the nervous system and sleep. So um, but talk to me. I remember there was the time that your mother had the fall and she had to go into hospital,
Hmm.
and I remember your mind started racing out of control again. It's like like the
Yeah.
all the plans have gone to shit, and
Yeah.
I can't focus. And do you remember what I said to you in that moment? Like, once we calmed down, you actually came up with your own solution to the problem. Do you remember what that was?
I don't even remember because that whole
Yeah,
month
yeah.
was
Well,
just
I remember you were so
an out of body experience, I
yeah.
think.
I remember you were so stressed because of all this stuff going on, and then your mother wasn't
Oh, yeah.
home; she was at the hospital, and so
Yeah.
that meant extra travel time on top of everything, even if she wasn't at home.
Hmm.
But I remember, I just took you through like calming the nervous system, and
Hmm.
then once you were calm, I think I can't remember the exact question I asked, but it was like, if this was going to be easy, what would you do? And you just said, I'm going to tap into my own zone of genius, which is project management.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
I remember
boom.
after we started talking, I was like, oh, right. I was going to project manage the whole thing.
Yeah, and so, but this is the impact that stress has on our brain. When we are highly stressed out, we
Hmm.
don't. we're not thinking clearly. Like the smart part
Yeah.
of our brain, that is the solution focused part of our brain, it's not switched on, and so we can't think. So if we're in a situation like that, the first thing you've got to do is just calm your nervous system and breathe, stop, breathe deeply through your nose into your diaphragm for a couple of minutes, and just help yourself just really calm down. And then your genius can snap back into place. Your brain starts thinking of solutions again, and that's exactly what happened to you. um, you're a project manager in your business life, and so
Mhm.
that gave you the tools to be able to project manage what was going on with your mother and all the supports that needed to be organized for her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I felt like that was a a really great moment, and I remember that one quite clearly. um,
And ironically, it was that happened just after I got to that point where I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel
yeah,
better. I feel like, and then all of a sudden, she fell and she was in hospital, and that whole process was a nightmare, and moving her to rehab was a nightmare, and just like you said, the running back and forth, and it was okay. I just have to break it down into steps, and what are the things that need to get done, and how am I going to go about doing that?
yeah, it's like we just need to take the emotion away from it, understand
Hmm.
what the action steps are, and just do it. Yep, there's going to be resistance.
Hmm.
We want to just try and keep the emotion out of it just so we can do it. Because when we bring the
Hmm.
emotion in, that's when our stress starts to activate, and we start to,
Yeah.
we start to either not follow through, or start to impact our progress. But you did a lot of work around calming your nervous system, and I think that that had such a massive impact on your weight loss journey. Um,
Hmm.
was there anything else that you feel like was a big thing, or something that you felt like you had to face or overcome in order to get to where you are now, 30 pounds down?
Um, well, part of it was that I am only going to get to this point. Am I going to be able to get past that point?
Right.
And I kept trying to put that out of my head.
Mm,
And one of the things, because we were doing, that the progress, not perfection. Let's just, keep moving. But unlike other times when I tried to lose weight, or and that was only losing the weight. It wasn't addressing these other things, right? Where these other things really helped.
yeah,
If I got on the scale and it went up like that, I would have been, you know, throw this thing away, throw the baby out with the bathwater. What's the point? And I'm done.
yeah,
And I did it. I was like, okay, it's one day, don't know what's going on. I'm just gonna, make sure I got my water, try and get my sleep, try and do some of the stress management techniques, and just keep doing what I need to be doing.
yeah,
And then I would see it go down. And then maybe the next week I'd see it go up.
mm,
And but as long as it was doing this and slowly working its way down, then
yeah,
but that was one thing I didn't freak out, whereas in the past I would have.
yeah,
So the scale never stressed me out, despite that EKG. It never really stressed me. Um, so it was a mental thing. It was really that the stress piece, um, and just kind of keeping up with the habits, and just keep adding more good habits in. I don't know. It's like
yeah.
this, it's been a bit of a blur, so there might be something you're remembering that I'm not, that I was, or I feel like I overcame a lot during this time.
You
Um,
did, you seriously overcame a lot during this time, and it was, I mean, I'm just trying to think if there was any other sort of big thing that we went through as well, but it was really around just helping you calm your nervous system and get a good night's sleep.
Mhm.
and get back to like the other healthy habits that you had, like
Yes.
doing your meal prep and making sure that you didn't have the foods in the house that were going to drive you off track, like just clean those
Right.
out. And then just help you. I get actually I remember one of the other things that was going on in the back of your mind is like is this my life now? Like panicking that
Oh, yeah.
you felt like
That
you
I
were
was stuck. If I
yeah
was trapped.
in this life. And
Yeah.
so the other thing that I remember was just helping you reframe um, how you were seeing your life at the moment, or
Hmm.
help you remind yourself when your brain wanted to go to I'm trapped, I'm never getting out of
Yeah.
this, just to help you remind your brain, like I'm separating you from your brain, remind
Hmm.
your brain that's freaking out that this is temporary. Your mother's house is on the market, it will be sold, and it now has. When that's
Hmm.
sold, your mother can then go into care, full-time care, which is what almost about to happen. And so
Hopefully. Yeah.
with that, fingers crossed. But
I know.
with that end game in mind, every time the
Hmm.
untrapped came up, you were able to refocus and say, actually, no, this is not forever. This is a temporary part of my life that I am experiencing, and this is not forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, just helping you just sort of reframe that story in order to keep you moving forwards. Because when we feel stuck, when we feel like emotional, when we feel upset in any way, that tends to lead us to doing things that are opposite to our goals.
Right. Right.
It's liking that
Yeah.
self-defense again. Um, I thought I might just for a moment share my screen for anybody who didn't see that EKG. I'm just pulling it up. It's not very big at the moment, but here, here is Tammy's EKG with
Yeah.
yeah, I've taken all the numbers out, so the numbers are confidential. But
Yeah.
yeah, you can see up here. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Yeah, you can see my mouse there.
Yeah.
Starting point. We had a nice big drop to start with, and then it went woo.
Hmm.
Look,
Yeah.
wee. It's like
Yeah.
a mountain track. It's like
That
um,
that that flat part is about when we sold the house,
yeah,
and yeah, and when I
yeah,
started really getting all the walking in. And
yeah,
that was the other thing with the movement and activity. I
yes,
wasn't doing crazy things like, doing hit workouts or running, or all I did was doing was walking and trying to get 10 to 12,000 steps in a day.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all I did. And that's all
Yeah.
I've been doing. I've tried to add some other stuff in. It just hasn't gotten there yet. So as long as I keep getting my steps in and keep moving, then but yeah, that's where, so that
Oh,
mental, that hold on me of, okay, we have to get this thing done. Once that happened, it was like whoosh,
yeah,
and that, I mean, that was a stressful thing. That was, kind of mentally holding me in that, oh, I'm stuck here kind of place.
yeah,
And that's a perfect example of how that stress and mental thing can change and really impact the weight loss, because you could see where it went like this, and that was all of that release.
yeah. Emotional release.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
released a lot of stress,
yeah.
and then I released some more excess weight.
Yeah, yeah, your body felt safe enough to let it go. It felt like
Yeah.
you were in a your nervous system was safe. It was like we don't need to hold on to all this
Hmm.
energy because we might need it to fight or flee. It was
Yeah.
okay, we feel safe enough to let it go now. Um, so,
Yeah.
but yeah, just on the movement, walking is one of the best things for weight loss. I think a lot of
Hmm.
people think they do need to go and do hit and all this high intensity stuff, but actually that doesn't do a lot to get you into a calorie deficit, and actually activates your hunger, so you end up eating more. So If you want to do it like exercise, I'm going to do I'm going to do a live session on exercise as well for weight loss. But for weight loss, and particularly for women, we are far better off doing low impact, low intensity, steady state, excuse me, exercise, which is what I'm doing for the Buns and Guns 8-week competition at the moment. And that I'm just doing walking. Um, and so walking, getting your steps in, as long as you're getting your heart rate to about 70% of your max, which is 220 minus your age times 0.7. That's how you find your 70% of your max, and that's fairly easy to do. And then do that, and then strength training, anything that is activating your muscles, so that we as ladies, our muscle mass does decrease as we age. I think people in general, muscle mass decreases as we age if we're not using it. So we need to use it in order to not lose it. And so working our muscles helps to retain our muscle mass, which keeps our metabolism firing. So just on that one. Now back to
The
you.
interesting thing, though, that I noticed with the walking too, once I started getting that in, is it was great when I was getting my steps in. And I had to be kind of creative in the beginning because I couldn't leave. She needs 24/7 care. So when I'm the only one here and I'm trying to get my steps in, so I'd get up on like commercial breaks and walk in the other room and walk in place, or do laps around the house on a commercial break and come back in. Because I couldn't even get downstairs to work on the treadmill because I couldn't leave the floor, right?
Yeah.
But when I had people here, what I did notice is the days I got outside and I went for a walk outside, I got more, I found that the scale responded to that. So those times when I would get on, I'm like, oh, I had this. It was because I was able to get out a couple of times to get a walk outside. And I think just being out in nature really helped.
Yeah.
Because to me, being on the treadmill feels more like a slog, but I'll get on it and do it if it's inclement weather or too cold or whatever, I can't get out. But something about being out in nature really makes a difference.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know if there's any like science around that. I haven't read or seen anything about it, but yeah, just something about being out in nature and getting fresh air, and getting exposure to vitamin D and all that sort of stuff. It just helps our health overall. Like, and
Yeah.
it also helps our mental health as well. And when our mental health is in check, then it's so much better for our physical health. So our physical health impacts our mental health. Our mental health impacts our physical health. Um, but okay, so
Yeah.
the other thing I was going to say about your steps, what I loved about the way you were approaching it. So even when you couldn't go downstairs to the treadmill, even when you couldn't get outside, you were still finding ways that you could, rather than sitting there going, I can't, which is what I do see a lot of people do. It's like you were asking yourself, how can I? How can I still get my steps in today? And so those sorts of those sorts of questions that we need to ask ourselves are really, really powerful. They actually help our brain think of creative ways that we can still take action towards our goals, even if the circumstances of our life are not perfect. Because let's face it, they never will be. And if we're waiting for the circumstances to be perfect, we're probably going to end up with more and more challenges. That end up stopping us taking action, full stop. So the question to ask is like, how can I take steps today? How can I get my steps in? How can I still feed myself healthy foods? How can I still make progress towards my goals, rather than looking at the problems that might be standing in the way?
And I was finding other creative things, like I'd be waiting, so I had my meal prep, right? So while I was heating it up, or waiting for the kettle to boil or something, I was starting to do things like push-ups against the counter,
Yeah.
or squats in the bathroom while I was brushing my teeth. I was just trying to do anything like where I could grab a minute to do something, like what can I do? I brought a pair of, I'm in my office at home right now, but I brought a pair of weights in here, and it's like every now and then I'll stand up and just do some bicep curls, like anything to like just because I could never get a structured program in. So let me just fit something in
Yeah,
where I can.
right. It wasn't going to be a problem for you. You were going to find a way. I love that. And I loved it. There was one of, I think, at least one of our sessions where you were up and you were doing your steps while we were
Oh yeah,
talking.
I was trying to get my 250 steps within the 9 hours, and
You
we
were
had met
trying,
earlier because it was the time change. I'm like, I got to raise the desk up and walk in place and get my 250 so I can get my 9. Yeah,
you were trying to
I
win
still do that.
competition. Yeah, no, it's a great thing to do.
Yeah, I do that in work meetings too. I'll just stand it up and they're getting used to me doing that. Now, sometimes I'll turn my camera off, but it depends on the meeting.
No, it's
But
great. I love it.
yeah, and the other thing that I needed to do was, pay it, like just pay attention to what was happening with my body. Because I'd be, I made, okay, I'm eating healthy, I'm eating hopefully plant-based, but I noticed some things weren't always, working. So and I've always done this, like just biohack myself.
Mm,
So I realized that if I ate my heavier meal at lunchtime and had something lighter, like a soup and salad or something at dinner, that worked better for me. It might be opposite for somebody else, but for me,
mm.
that worked better. And when I made that change, I noticed a shift. Like
Yeah,
every time I tried to do something like that, that it would like shift down something. I might not slide down, but it would shift down
that's right. Your body.
some. But I just kept looking like, what am I doing? Well, okay, it went up. Did I get enough sleep? Am I good with my water? Like, what else can I change?
Mhm.
Um, so once we got all that stress and everything under control, and I had those tools that I could lean on, then I started looking at all the other things along the way. And then I could start paying attention to things,
Yeah, yeah,
what's
yeah,
working, what's not
yeah,
working,
yeah. You were in the mindset
um,
of being able to pay attention to it, and I love that too. It's
yeah.
like the scale is feedback, and it's only one measure of feedback too. Because I remember the scale might have went up once, but your clothes still felt good, or you were still
Hmm.
putting on clothes that you hadn't been able to wear for a long time, and they were fitting properly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just paying attention to what's going on in our body, paying attention to how our body feels is just as important, if not more important, than what that number on the scale says. But also
Yeah.
using that number on the scale just as a guide, and just seeing it as another data set, and
Hmm.
then looking at the habits that we have. Like, okay, the weight went up this week. Is there anything that I have done or anything that I could have done differently that might have, or is there anything that I did that impacted that result? If not, then okay, then that number's just doing what it's going to do, and just trust that things are going to go the right way. Or, oh yeah, I had a bit of a moment where I didn't sleep, or I didn't get my water, or it didn't move as much, and that's probably why the number went up. It's like, okay, we're just looking at it in terms of data, and let's make an adjustment and keep going. So we take all the emotion away from that scale going like this, and take
Yeah.
all the expectation out of where it should be, and just look and focus on the habits and making progress
Hmm.
over perfection. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
And
tell us about
and like I said, in the past, I would have had emotion around that
yeah,
scale.
yeah,
I
so
had so much other emotion. That was the least, that was the least triggering emotional thing
had
that
no
I had
emotions
going
on the
on.
scale.
And like you said, I kept telling you, it's like, oh, I don't know, it says this, but I put these pants on and I haven't worn them in a long time, or these ones are still really loose, or I think it was the day I said, it went up, but my leggings are starting to gape. So, I'm going by that. So I'm shopping in my own closet now, but which is great. You know?
So
I tried on a bunch of shorts last night and I was like, oh, these fit now. I'm like, by summertime, they might be way too big.
you have to go shopping again.
Oh no, I'll just move up a shelf and go shopping in my closet.
This is where we get rid of them, and because they're never coming back. Remember, we're at the
Yeah.
absolute ceiling now. The ceiling's not up here anymore. The ceiling is right here where you are, and we're only going down. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about what some of your biggest or most powerful takeaways or lessons or ahas have been through these 7 months.
Um, I think I think the biggest one was just how much stress really was impacting me. I don't think I realized. But then I started thinking back, you know, over the weekend, I started thinking back, and that's when I actually gained weight the first time. Was I had we had an acquisition at work, and I had massive stress in my life and suddenly gained weight. And that was the first time in my life I'd ever gained weight.
Wow.
I'd been healthy weight the whole rest of my life. Um, so in thinking back, it was like, okay, stress really does impact me
Yeah.
tremendously.
Yeah.
And the sleep issues impact me tremendously. So really keeping with those stress management tools to keep, my cortisol under control, my emotional responses under control, um, I think goes a long way. Uh, I didn't realize how much it was really impacting me overall. I
Yeah.
mean, and for other things too, just all the health risks and things like that that go along with it.
Yeah.
But I didn't, like, but you don't really think about it. And I didn't really, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, it's impacting me, but it was,
Really affecting. Yeah.
really affecting me. And I
It's
just
like
didn't realize how
major.
much.
Yeah.
And then how simple the tools are to help deal with it. Just breathe, just
Yeah.
stop and breathe. That's all, we do it automatically, but yeah, when you consciously do some breathing to just relax and, you know, and even tonight, we had a little bit of a stressful situation about an hour before I got on the call with you, which in the past would have really set me off. And I was just like, I just took a few deep breaths and I went back to prepping stuff for dinner and I was all good. And I was thinking about that. I was like, in the past, this probably would have derailed me. I probably would have been really upset and would have felt the stress from that. And now I'm not. So I think that's the biggest thing for me was
Yeah.
just really realizing that impact that it was having on me. But then, and then also just remembering things like the meal prep, you know, that goes a long way. I mean, it takes a lot of stress out and it really helps keep me on track, right? Because everything's there, it's all ready. I just
Yeah.
have to pull stuff out. So it's just a time saver. Yeah, I'm giving up a couple of hours on Sunday, but the whole rest of the week is all set. And then I can just keep on track and I'm not tempted, by anything.
Yeah.
And,
Contract food wise as well as task wise with everything else you've got to do with your mom and with
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. But then also the community. That was the other thing, because with you, I was like, okay, the support, the accountability, that's going to be great. I'll have that. What I didn't realize was through the Facebook group, that little community that we built, how great that was and how helpful it was. We're all like, here's what I meal prep for the week, or here's a new recipe. And we're all trading recipes. And it's like trying new stuff out. And, just going through with other people or, really that in the end was it really helpful
I think
to have
that
that little community.
like the community's really it's such a great environment in there now. Like everybody's just so supportive and really becoming quite sociable now. And I love that. I love seeing everybody in there supporting each other because um, the weight loss journey can feel like a very lonely place at times. And yet when
Hmm.
you've got, the supportive, like, someone like me, like a coach, you've got one person to lean on, but when you've got a community of people who are all just cheering each other on and
Hmm.
helping each other, support each other, share each other's recipes, it can just it feels like you're not alone on the journey. You do have some buddies that
Right.
you can lean on as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and sharing the struggles and wins,
yeah,
it's, you know, everybody sharing their wins for the week, and they don't have to be huge. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, hey, I made it outside for a walk.
Yeah.
Yay. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
or I got all my food prepped for the week. You know,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
and so I think somebody posted, it's like, not only did I make it, but I ate it all. You know,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and like, it's because you could get to a point where like, oh, I made that. I don't want that. Let me go out, you know, or
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
pick up the phone and order something, you know.
And often
So
you
it's like, you know, helping each other kind of stay on track, and,
Mhm.
you know, or going through a struggle. It's like, oh, yeah, I went through that. Here's what I tried. You know, maybe it might help. I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be different for you, but at least we're kind of in it together.
Yes. Yeah,
And that
exactly.
really went a long way. And I didn't expect that.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. You know, it was helping everybody like see that even the small things are worth celebrating, because a lot of the time we think
Yeah.
that, you know, the small things are not worth celebrating. It's like I should be doing those anyway, like, you know, beat ourselves up because, you know, that's not
Yeah.
the week that, you know, we've got to start celebrating, because, you know, just like training a dog, positive reinforcement is what helps create healthy habit change, whereas negative
Mhm.
reinforcement like beating ourselves up, that doesn't change anything. That just makes us feel like shit, and
Right.
shit, we take shitty actions. So all that positive reinforcement,
Right.
from the group helps us, you know, feel better about what we're doing as well.
Yeah. Even if
Um,
we have like a slip up, you know,
yeah,
it's like, don't beat yourself up. Okay. It was a moment,
yeah,
and move on.
yeah,
You know, it's like, I was, I don't know, I did a lot, I guess I did a lot of thinking about this call this past week, but it's kind of like, you know, walking. Okay. So you trip. Are you going to stop walking?
yeah,
No.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
just going to
yeah,
get up and keep moving, right? It's the same kind of a thing,
yeah,
right? You're just, you know, you don't just beat yourself up and say, oh, I tripped, I fell down, you know, I guess I can't walk anymore.
yeah. I'm useless. I
Give
can't.
that up, wheel me. You know, no, you're going to just get up and move on. It's the same thing. It's like, okay, well, I tripped, and now let me get up and get back on track.
Yeah, exactly. And
And
I also liken it to, you know, our inner child. Our inner child is usually the one that's playing up, that is self-sabotaging, or that is, you know, doing the naughty stuff, let's just say. Um, and when we do that, you know, would we want an adult, if we're going back and actually remembering ourselves as a 5-year old, would we want an adult speaking to us like we speak to ourselves? And if the
right,
answer is no, then don't do it, because that's who you are speaking to your inner child. And so what we want to do is come to that with love and kindness, and just be encouraging, supportive, and get ourselves back on track. And that's how we encourage, positive, change. So
and
tell us how you're
well,
feeling
I
now.
was just going to say one more thing about the slip
Yeah.
ups, that I actually found that a couple of times when I ate off plan, I felt like crap afterwards, and it was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is a reminder. Like this isn't good. I don't feel good when I have this. So it's like kind of like a, a reinforcement of, yeah, I feel really good when I'm eating this way, and you know, I just didn't feel great after this. So I can't believe I used to eat that a lot, but you know,
Right. Yeah.
now
I
now
know. Yeah,
yeah, not so
and
much.
that's about, you know, once again, just using your body as a guide, to be drawn towards healthy habits instead of
Yeah.
negative. You know, really understanding the difference between, you know, when you are eating well and when you're drinking your water and getting your sleep, understanding how you feel then versus, when you know, when you're going off track again, and using that as the pull to get you back on track.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And well, tell us how you feel now. Like 30 pounds down, how are you feeling in your
Yeah.
body, in your mind? What's going on for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel so much better. I feel lighter. I feel lighter energetically, but and physically. I think I'm walking different. I think I'm walking taller. I don't know.
You were saying
It's,
that at one point. In fact, you know, like I think, you know, it was a couple of months ago. I remember you saying you felt like you were standing taller, and you
yeah,
like, you know, you just felt
yeah,
like you were less trying to hide away from.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing.
Hell, I took a selfie. I mean, That says something. But
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, I feel lighter and brighter and more energetic and
You look it, you see
happier,
it. Yeah.
you know.
Like the Tammy
Uh,
who I'm talking to now is not the Tammy who I started talking to 7 months ago. Like
yeah,
the confidence is back, and the color in your cheeks, and yeah, just everything about you just says I'm back.
yeah,
I didn't even know you before that, so I just
I
feel like
know,
you know
I
you.
know.
Yeah, yeah. So
But
what advice would you give to anybody who is out there maybe struggling with circumstances or situations in their life that are challenging and who might be struggling like you were?
um, well, one is just find some tools. If it's a stress thing, figure out what works best for you for stress management, because that goes a long way. Um, and don't give up on yourself. It's that progress, not perfection. Just keep moving along, and it's not going to all happen in a month. It's not going to be a 30-day plan where you're just like, okay, great, I lost 500 pounds and I feel great.
Mm.
It's going to take time, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. And but the it just goes slow, and give yourself the grace to go slow, um, because you'll reap more of the benefits and it'll last longer, I think. Those quick hits don't last as long
Yeah.
as when you just go one step at a time. You're not going to do all the things. I didn't do all the things at once. I made sure I was getting my water. Then I was trying to get the stress under control. And then I had the energy to start doing the meal prepping and making sure I was eating on plan. And then I was able to get some exercise in, and it was a progression.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I just had to give myself the time, and give yourself the grace to go through that.
Mm.
But really figure out what is it in your life. Is it stress? Is it sleep? Is it the food habits? Is it not enough water? Is it I don't know. And then find the tools to help you work through that. And it's not going to be an overnight shift. It's not going to be an overnight change,
Mm.
but you're going to see progress after a while.
Yeah.
And it all builds on each other to then you know to help you. you
Yeah.
know I'm not to my goal, but I'm well on my way, and I'm just going to keep going,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you've got the
um
tools under your belt now, and you've identified I guess the root thing that was standing in your way previously. It wasn't diet. It wasn't, well,
right.
emotional eating. Yeah, that's something
Well,
that you needed to deal with why you were emotionally eating. You needed to get the
yeah,
tools to be able to deal with the root cause of the weight gain and the thing that was then going to be able to take the weight off. So
yeah,
just going on another diet is what it
right,
was. It was not
right,
ever going to get to the root cause of what was going on for you.
yeah.
So yeah,
Sometimes it's not just food. you know
food's a big part of it, believe me.
it's
But
a big it's a big
yeah,
it's a big part, but it's not the only part.
yeah,
you know
yeah, yeah,
there's a lot of other things. I could have been eating perfectly,
yeah.
and if I didn't deal with that stress and the stress, so I could tamp down the stress, deal with the cortisol levels, and start getting some good sleep, you know
Nothing
I
would have shifted.
probably would. I think it would probably still be up here. Might still be going down, but it would still be up here.
Yeah,
It's a package deal. We're not just one thing. We're complicated beings, and there's a lot going on.
yeah. Everything impacts everything. Lack of sleep impacts stress. Stress impacts sleep. All of it impacts, the hormonal shifts in our body, which impacts how much we eat, what we eat, our, emotions, all that sort of stuff. So, we are one complete being, and everything is working in conjunction at the same time. So,
Yeah,
it definitely pays to address all parts of you, and then find that root cause, find that thing that is really either causing the weight gain or preventing it from coming off.
Yeah.
And
It's like a holistic approach. You know, look at the whole picture.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Tammy. It's been a blast. Thank you for coming on and talking to us today,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
really appreciate you. And yeah, I know that your journey continues, and can't wait to help you, get past the next milestone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, maybe we'll have you back here when you've got to the next milestone.
Yeah. And then hopefully anybody else who's got an EKG going, just don't give up. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's probably a good piece of advice. Don't. Yeah, the EKG doesn't mean you're not going
yeah.
to succeed. You can
Yeah.
succeed. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Exactly.
Okay, well,
Awesome.
thank you.
Well,
And
thank you.
yeah, I will see you soon. All
All
right.
right.
Bye.
Bye.